Welcome to Phil's Virtual Sewing Club. My name's Cindy.
And I'm Diane. Today what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to create this trivet.
This is the final product, and it's a clear silicone trivet, and it's going to display your decorative fabric through there. We're going to add a border, and the back is quilted. Makes a great presentation for your table, and it's a great size for any casserole dish. So let's get started. I cut the pieces of the extra large trivet following the instructions for the trivet without the binding. There is another option that you can use that includes a binding. However, we're using the one without it this time. The first thing I did was I used, for the backing piece, I used a larger piece to allow for any shrinkage. I used the same batting and backing with my backing piece for the trivet, and I went from corner to corner with my ruler and used a friction pen and drew the lines 1.5 inches apart, and then I rotated it and went the opposite direction. One thing I did also, which I found was helpful, is I auditioned several different decorative stitches. Now I'm going to use the digital dual feed foot on my Baby Lock Solaris, and what that does is aids in the even feeding. It's belt driven, so it will feed my layers evenly when I go to quilt this. Because some of these decorative stitches are not compatible, if I choose a stitch on my Solaris and I have my digital dual feed foot attached, the stitches that are not going to be compatible because of the side movement are going to be grayed out on my machine screen. So what I've done is I've tried a couple different fabrics, and this is the fabric that it's going to be displayed underneath the trivet. And I wanted to find a thread and a stitch I thought would work well. So what I did is audition several different stitches, and I did like a lot of them. I like this rickrack, and what I did is I wrote down the stitch, the width and the length, and that gave me a visual what it's going to look like on the same fabric. I used the same fabric sandwich that I'm going to be stitching on. Then I did like this serpentine, and this is something when I did the cross hatching, which is both directions, I thought this might work well, and it wouldn't take me all day to stitch this. And I also tried the Madeira, it's like a metallic, it's called Spectra. I did have to lower my tension, and I had to use an embroidery needle with a larger eye. And I liked it, but I still thought that the yellow showed up better. Then I tried the Madeira frosted matte thread, and I really like this thread, but I thought it blended with this fabric. Even though it's showing a yellow, it kind of looked like a light green stitching it on this fabric. So this is very helpful. So you might want to take the time to audition several different stitch styles and different lengths and widths, and then try different threads. So I ended up with the yellow thread with the serpentine stitch. I chose a width of 5.5 and a length of 2.0 with my serpentine. It's going to show my differential feed foot is on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at, I've done a lot of this already, but I wanted to show you. What you'll want to do is go down one way and then alternate the direction and come back this way. And that's going to end up aiding also in a nice even feed on that. So here, let's start stitching. Thread my needle. So I've come, I went down, I marked my pin where I left off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up this line in the middle of my foot, right at the needle. So that's going to give me my visual on feeding that. So I'm going to lower my foot, center it up, and I'm going to start stitching off the fabric and end off the fabric. And this goes fairly quick. Now I'm going to rotate and come back down on this angle line. Alternate again. Once you start getting towards the end, the stitching lines, of course, are going to be a lot shorter. One more. I'm going to rotate my direction one more time. Oh, I lost my thread, so let's start that again. Quickly rethread my machine. So now the next step is we're going to take it over to our wool mat and press with a dry iron to dissolve all of these friction lines. And like I said, I started with the longest diagonal, went in half-inch increments this way, rotated it, and went the other way. So we'll go to the mat now. What I do is I'm using my Panasonic cordless iron and just ironing over all the friction lines, and they will completely disappear. Make sure I got them all. And there we go, everything. So I've got a few here. Let me press that again. Now we've got them all. And I did forget to mention while we were at the machine, when I first start stitching, you want to start stitching with the center first and then go out this way. And then you're going to come to the center and come out this way. And that really makes it for a nice, flat, quilted surface. Isn't that attractive? So the next step we're going to do is we're going to cut it down, and then we're going to proceed with following the instructions to complete our trivet. Okay, back at my sewing machine, I've clipped my cut border pieces using these Wonder Clips. You really can't use pins with this project, and these are awesome. I keep them at my sewing table all the time. It really are nice for projects like this. And the next thing I had to do is change my needle, and I changed to a 90-14 jeans needle, and that will penetrate all of these layers because I'm going to use my zipper foot and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance to make sure that I'm getting that 1/4 inch. I not only have markings on my plate on the Baby Lock Solaris, but I also have this measuring gauge that I always recheck. And this has got several different increments of measurement. And here's the 1/4 inch. And I'm going to check my seam. If I'm using these, this 1/4 inch is fits right in that area. So I'm going to use my zipper foot and I'm going to install it on the left position. Really quick snap on. I'm using the same thread. And I'm going to line up the end of my zipper foot. I'm using the center needle position. And I've selected the 1.03, which is the center needle position on the Baby Lock Solaris. And I'm just going to keep my length at 2.5. And I'm going to remove these clips as I go. And I'm just running the edge of my fabric along the edge of that zipper foot, which is giving me my 1/4 inch. And I'm going to do the other side. Now I'm going to take it to my ironing station, and what we're going to do is we're going to press this open and then trim any excess, and then we're going to put the other border piece on and stitch that down. So we're going to go to the ironing station at this point.
Okay.
Now the next step is we've pressed this open and trimmed it. I've got the end border on, and you want to make sure that when you open this up, you get that silicone trivet piece and those endings all the way up into that crease. And then I'm going to fold it over and clip it down. We'll use our clip. And now we're ready to stitch this 1/4 inch seam. And then we'll stitch the other side, press that open, and we'll be right back. Now I've got my quilted piece trimmed. I've got right sides together with the front side of the trivet. And I'm going to start with you're going to leave a 5-inch opening, and I've left it on this long side. And you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around this, and then we're going to turn it. But I'm going to switch over. This is a foot I've been enjoying. It's the clear 1/4 inch quilting foot. And this has got the markings for turning corners. I really have been liking that foot. So at this point, I took my zipper foot off, and I'm going to insert the 1/4 inch clear foot. It gives you a great visibility using this foot. So we're going to stitch all the way around using that 1/4 inch. Removing our and I know right exactly where to rotate because of that red marking on the foot. Going a little bit too far, okay. Keep doing it. A little bit too far. I'm ending up here to the last 5-inch mark, and I'm gonna reinforce that and trim. Now we've sewn all the way around and with right sides together, and we're going to turn this and then we're going to top stitch around.
I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial that Cindy used to create the trivet. So now we want to show you a few options that you can also utilize using this same pattern. Okay,
Diane, these really, once you make one, you're going to want to make more. And I wanted to brighten up my kitchen with some florals. So because the florals were so busy, I thought I'm going to try a 12 weight. I used this Lana thread by Madeira. And I played around. I had to decrease my tension a little bit, but I thought it gave it good texture.
Cindy, what is that stitch?
This is the feather stitch. And I drew my lines, and you're going to go up one side and down the other. And this is going to level, keep it, from creating any pleats or puckering.
I do like that technique that you used here. I think it adds a little bit more depth to that.
Yeah, the texture's nice.
The feathered stitch kind of goes right along with that floral pattern that you have on the background as well. Another thing that I utilized, I found that, maybe I could use like an embroidery design for the backside. So I found like an Easter bunny. Okay, so it's kind of primed for the season.
Was that built into the Solaris?
It was. It was built into the Solaris. And then what I also did is I found an echo stitch in there that I was able to utilize. And so I thought it,
really cute.
It really does add a little bit, a different look to it. So, you can go crazy with all these different options that you have.
And you're always going to make that backing bigger. So once you've done this, you can actually create your own area too if you make it a lot bigger and then trim it down later.
I don't know if you knew this, Cindy, but you can also buy these refills. So you don't have to buy the directions. Again, all you need to do is buy a separate packet that has the refills in it. So
you already have the instructions.
You do. You have the instructions. So buy a refill and make several. These are great for gifts too.
Yes.
Another product that I saw in the same lane is an oven mitt, which these are fun too. So you can make these to color coordinate with your trivet that you made.
This is also made by Round the Bobbin.
Wow.
It's another Hot Stuff product.
Yeah.
And then once you have purchased
the directions or the
instruction, the original with the instructions, you can also buy the refill for the mitt also. And I bet I haven't made this yet, Diane, but I bet that would be a lot of fun. And these can
Yeah.
really get addicting also.
I think that this is fun. This is great for if you even have like a shower gift, for a bridal shower.
Or Father's Day.
Oh, Father's Day,
Barbecues.
use men, type patterns and so forth.
Yeah, lots of options.
You can have a lot of fun with it.
Yes. Okay. Well, if you're interested in purchasing any of this or any of the accessories we used today in the tutorial, please contact Larry or Annette at Phil's Sewing Machine Center in Washington, Missouri.